Today is the International Day of LGBTQ people in STEM. This day is meant to celebrate the achievements of LGBTQ scientists, technologists, engineers, and mathematicians, as well as start to consider and challenge the barriers faced by LGBTQ people trying to get into these professions. One of the questions that often is asked is, why do we still need to talk about sexuality and gender identity in STEM subjects? Surely these are objective subjects in which personal factors such as this don't play a key role. However, scientists, technologists, engineers, and mathematicians don't work in isolation. In fact, they tend to work together in larger groups, bringing together a variety of people with diverse opinions, thoughts, and ideas, which is fundamental to the success of a lot of research projects. And this you can see in the structures that we have. So we tend to form research groups that bring together people interested in a specific problems. These groups collaborate across the world with other international groups, and they obviously need to network to make sure that we're sharing our up-to-date information, and we do this through conferences. And so this obviously requires a lot of interpersonal interaction. And whilst we're working together and sharing information, researchers don't just focus on their research, they also talk about their personal lives, just like in any other workplace. This aspect of getting to know people that we're working with and getting to obviously trust them and to form teams with them is really obviously important. But it can create issues for the LGBTQ plus person, especially when they're amongst unfamiliar people. In these situations, there's always that constant question about whether to come out or not, whether to tell someone you don't know about your LGBTQ plus identity or not. And obviously, there are two sides to that. If you choose not to come out, that leads to the need to be careful about what you're saying and always having to sort of monitor that. And obviously, that can be stressful. And if you choose to come out, you have to potentially face the consequences of a negative reaction from that person and the potential impact that that can have on your career or your research. And that's obviously potentially quite an emotionally straining thing to do on a day to day basis. And the possibility of meeting someone who might not fully approve of your gender identity or sexuality is not insignificant, with 1 in 3 of the UK public indicating that they have some degree of opposition to same sex relationships in a 2019 survey. So, in a group of 6 people, 2 people may not necessarily be fully on board with your relationship. Furthermore, only 49% of the UK public view prejudice against transgender people as always wrong, which suggests that the majority of the UK public actually believes that, at least in some circumstances, it's okay to be prejudiced against transgender people, which is obviously concerning when you're having to work in large groups of people. And scientists and other STEM professionals aren't immune from facing this from their colleagues. As we can see, 18% of LGBT plus identifying physical scientists had experienced exclusionary behaviour based on their gender or sexual identity in the last 12 months when surveyed in 2019. So that's more than 1 in 6. Being subject to discrimination by a fellow STEM professional isn't just incredibly upsetting, it can also have a significant long-term impact on your career prospects. This is because advancement in STEM subjects is very much dependent on the opinion of others, not just through the provision of references from educational supervisors as well as recent employers, but also the peer review system, which is used to gauge the quality of the research or the outputs coming from your work. And peer review affects all through our careers, from getting our undergraduate summer studentships, getting our first postdoctoral jobs, gaining independence through postdoctoral fellowships. As we start to develop further as academics, we might be getting the need to get grants or to be invited to give conference talks or to get high impact papers in journals. All of these things rely on peer review. And the anonymity of that gives someone potential cover to essentially veto your progress in your career. So having someone holding a prejudice against you because of your gender identity or sexuality does put you potentially, and it's obviously hypothetical, at a disadvantage in some of these circumstances, not on the basis of your scientific work or your technical work or your engineering or your mathematics, but based off of your gender identity and sexuality. And these negative environments and the potential to hold back someone's career progression is clearly starting to be seen to be having an effect on the pipeline of LGBTQ plus people in STEM, with studies starting to show that in US students that there is a reduced retention of students who identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual. Similarly, in physical scientists in the UK, they showed that actually there's a greater number of LGBTQ plus physical scientists who've thought about leaving their workplace compared to the equivalent non-LGBTQ plus people. This suggests that this could be significantly impacting the retention of talented LGBTQ plus people in STEM. And this is something that needs further examination. So how can we start to make environments that are better supportive of LGBTQ plus people in STEM? Well, one way we can do this is start to show people that they can do it by having role models and mentors available to help support LGBTQ plus people. And the Skill University Staff LGBTQI network has a number of role models, some of whom are from a STEM background, present on our web pages. As you can see here, this is my own profile page, but there are a number of others, much better looking people that you can look at instead. Another thing to bear in mind when we want to create LGBTQ plus inclusive workplaces is that not everyone feels comfortable being out or fully out to everybody in those environments. And so unless someone has specifically told you what their gender identity or sexuality is, it's better to assume nothing about it, and to be open to the possibility that you may be speaking to an LGBTQ plus person. And this is quite backed up by some of the survey data from physical scientists, which showed that only 14% of bisexual or pansexual LGBTQ plus scientists were completely out at work. And although that percentage raised further up for different members of the LGBTQ plus community, it was only up to a maximum of 44% of gay people that were openly out that was registered. And so that shows you less than half of all LGBTQ plus people are completely out at work. And so someone may not necessarily have disclosed it to you, but obviously it can create an environment that would be unwelcomed if you made comments that assumed that someone was heterosexual or had a cisgendered identity. So do think about utilizing, multiple pronouns, or providing your preferred pronouns yourself, or offering the opportunity of asking about their partner or their husband or their wife at the same time. So, how is your husband or wife? That creates an environment where people realize that you're open to that conversation, and hopefully encourages them to talk to you in a way that is positive. Another way that you can create more LGBTQ plus inclusive workplaces is to create a show of support for LGBTQ plus people. This helps people navigate those environments where they're walking into unfamiliar groups of people and they're not sure whether they're going to be welcomed or not. If you can have some small symbols to show that you are supportive of people, this is a really key way that is going to encourage people to be open out, and in turn that will hopefully create a culture in which, when more people are visibly out, that other people will feel comfortable to be out in that environment too. And so this positive feedback obviously really builds up. When we talk about being a visible ally, it's not just shoving a massive rainbow flag up at every available moment, although that's obviously a good way to do it. But obviously, it's not always a practical or a sensible way to do it. But small things like putting your pronouns on the bottom of your emails, putting a symbol up on your computer screens, or putting stickers somewhere visible, so when someone comes to visit you, it maybe doesn't have to be completely out there and open, but someone somewhere can see some sort of indication that you are open and willing to talk about these things and that you're likely to be supportive. Those small symbols make a big difference. So thinking about how you can do that both personally as your department as a whole are really good ways to try and create more inclusive environments. And one final way that I'll say that you can use to make your environment more inclusive is to talk about LGBTQ plus issues from time to time amongst the whole staff. And a good way to do that is to use some of the key event days through the calendar, things like LGBT History Month, Pride, and obviously LGBT STEM Day. These give you an opportunity to both show your support to the LGBTQ plus community, as well as discuss some of the issues that's faced. And by raising those awareness, we create people that are allies and able to support people better, help raise awareness of the issues faced, at which point they can be counteracted, and also give the message to those people that maybe aren't fully out in your workplace that this is a safe and supportive environment and that they are welcome here. And all of those things are really positive. So I hope that's something that people will look to do in the future.